Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we will be doing some more A Testament of Hope by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Today's piece we are reading is called Our Struggle. And it says this article was an early attempt to describe and assess the importance of the Montgomery struggle. But let's go ahead and jump into this. The segregation of Negroes, which is inevitable discrimination, has thrived on elements of inferiority present in the masses of both white and Negro people. Through forced separation from our African culture, through slavery, poverty, and deprivation, many black men lost self-respect. In their relations with Negroes, white people discovered that they had rejected the very center of their own ethical professions. They could not face the triumph of their lesser instincts, and simultaneously could not face the triumph and simultaneously have peace within. And so, to gain it, they rationalized in insisting that the unfortunate Negro, being less than human, deserved and even enjoyed second-class status. They argued that his inferior social, economic, and political position was good for him. Even he was incapable of advancing beyond a fixed position and would therefore be happier if encouraged not to attempt the impossible. He is subjugated by superior people with an advanced way of life. The master race will be able to civilize him to a limited degree, if only he will be true to his inferior nature and stay in this place. White men soon came to forget that the Southern social culture and all its institutions had been organized to perpetuate this rationalization. They observed a caste system and quickly were conditioned to believe that its social results, which they had created, actually reflected the Negro's innate and true nature. This, in time, many Negroes lost faith in themselves and came to believe that perhaps they really were what they had been told they were, something less than men. So long as they were prepared to accept this role, racial peace could be maintained. It was an uneasy peace in which the Negro was forced to accept patiently injustice, insult, injury, and exploitation. Gradually, the Negro masses in the South began to reevaluate themselves, a process that was to change the nature of the Negro community and doom the social patterns of the South. We discovered that we had never really smothered our self-respect and that we could not be at one with ourselves without asserting it. From this point on, the South's terrible peace was rapidly undermined by the Negro's new and courageous thinking and his ever increasing readiness to organize and to act. Conflict and violence were coming to the surface as the white South desperately clung to its old patterns. The extreme tension in race relations in the South today is explained in part by the revolutionary change in the Negro's evaluation of himself and of his destiny, and by which his determination to struggle for justice. We Negroes have replaced self-pity with self-respect and self-deprecation with dignity. When Miss Rosa Parks, the quiet seamstress whose arrest precipitated the nonviolent protest in Montgomery, was asked why she had refused to move to the rear of a bus, she said, "It was a matter of dignity. I could not have faced myself and my people if I had moved." The new Negro. Many of the Negroes who joined the protest did not expect it to succeed. When asked why, they usually gave one of three answers. "I didn't expect Negroes to stick to it," or "I never thought we Negroes had the nerve," or "I thought the pressure from the white folks would kill us or kill it before it got started." In other words, our nonviolent protest in Montgomery is important because it is demonstrating to the Negro, North and South, that many of the stereotypes he has held about himself and other Negroes are not valid. Montgomery has broken the spell and is ushering in concrete manifestations of the thinking and action of the new Negro. We can stick together. In Montgomery, 42,000 of us have refused to ride the city's segregated buses since December 5th. Some walk as many as 14 miles a day. Our leaders do not have to sell out. Many of us have been indicted, arrested, and mugged. Every Monday and Thursday night, we stand before the Negro population at the prayer meetings and repeat, "It is an honor to face jail for a just cause." Threats and violence do not necessarily intimidate those who are sufficiently aroused and nonviolent. The bombing of two of our homes has made us more resolute. When a handbill was circulated at the White Citizens Council meeting stating that Negroes should be abolished by guns, bows and arrows, slingshots and knives, we responded with even greater determination. Our church is becoming militant. 24 ministers were arrested in Montgomery. Each has said publicly that he stands prepared to be arrested again. Even upper-class Negroes who reject the come to Jesus gospel are now convinced that the church has no alternative but to provide the nonviolent dynamics for social change in the midst of conflict. The $30,000 used for the carpool, which transports over 20,000 Negro workers, school children, and housewives, has been raised in the churches. The churches have become the dispatch centers where the people gather to wait for rides. We believe in ourselves. In Montgomery, we walk in a new way. We hold our heads in a new way. Even the Negro reporters who converged on Montgomery have a new attitude. One tired reporter, asked at a luncheon in Birmingham to say a few words about Montgomery, stood up, thought for a moment, and uttered one sentence: "Montgomery has made me proud to be a Negro." Economics is part of our struggle. We are aware that Montgomery's white businessmen have tried to talk sense to the bus company and the city commissioners. We have observed that small Negro shops are thriving as Negroes find it inconvenient to walk downtown to the white stores. We have been getting more polite treatment in the white shops since the protest began. We have a new respect for the proper use of our dollar. We have discovered a new and powerful weapon: nonviolent resistance. Although the law is an important factor in bringing about social change, there are certain conditions in which the very effort to adhere to new legal decisions creates tension and provokes violence. We had hoped to see demonstrated a method that would enable us to continue our struggle while coping with the violence it aroused. Now we see the answer: face violence if necessary, but refuse to return violence. If we respect those who oppose us, they may achieve a new understanding of the human relations involved. We now know that the Southern Negro has come of age, politically and morally. Montgomery has demonstrated that we will not run from the struggle and will support the battle for equality. The attitude of many young Negroes a few years ago was reflected in the common expression, "I'd rather be a lamppost in Harlem than governor of Alabama." Now the idea expressed in our churches, schools, pool rooms, restaurants, and homes is, "Brother, stay here and fight nonviolently. 'Cause if you don't let them make you mad, you can win." The official slogan of the Montgomery Improvement Association is "Justice without violence." The issues in Montgomery. The leaders of the old order in Montgomery are not prepared to negotiate a settlement. This is not because of the conditions we have set for returning to the buses. The basic question of segregation in interstate travel is already before the courts. Meanwhile, we ask only for what in Atlanta, Mobile, Charleston, and most other cities in the South is considered the Southern pattern. We seek the right, under segregation, to seat ourselves from the rear forward for a first come, first served basis. In addition, we ask for courtesy and the hiring of some Negro bus drivers on predominantly Negro routes. A prominent judge of Tuscaloosa was asked if he felt there was any connection between authoring Lucy's effort to enter the University of Alabama and the Montgomery nonviolent protest. He replied, "Autherine is just one unfortunate girl who doesn't know what she is doing. But in Montgomery, it looks like all the niggers have gone crazy." Later, the judge is reported to have explained that, of course, the good niggers had undoubtedly been riled up by outsiders, communists, and agitators. It is apparent that at this historic moment, most of the elements of the white South are not prepared to believe that our Negroes could of themselves act like this. Miscalculation of the white leaders. Because the mayor and city authorities cannot admit to themselves that we have changed every move they have made has inadvertently increased the protest and united the Negro community. 1955, December the 1st, they arrested Miss Parks, one of the most respected Negro women in Montgomery. December the 3rd, they attempted to intimidate the Negro population by publishing a report in the daily paper that certain Negroes were calling for a boycott of the buses. They thereby informed the 30,000 Negro readers of the planned protest. December the 5th, they found Mrs. Parks guilty and fined her $14. This action increased the number of those who joined the boycott. December the 5th, they arrested a Negro college student for intimidating passengers. Actually, he was helping an elderly woman cross the street. This mistake solidified the college students' support of the protest. Two policemen on motorcycles followed each bus on its rounds through the Negro community. This attempt at psychological coercion further increased the number of Negroes who joined the protest. In a news telecast at 6 p.m., a mass meeting planned for that evening was announced. Although we had expected only 500 people at the meeting, over 5,000 attended. December the 6th, they began to intimidate Negro taxi drivers. This led to the setting up of a carpool and a resolution to extend indefinitely our protest, which had originally been called for one day only. December the 7th, they began to harass Negro motorists. This encouraged the Negro middle class to join the struggle. December the 8th, the lawyer for the bus company said, "We have no intention of hiring Negro drivers now or in the foreseeable future." To us, this meant never. The slogan then became, "Stay off the buses until we win." And on December the 9th, the mayor invited Negro leaders to a conference, presumably for negotiation. When we arrived, we discovered that some of the men in the room were white supremacists and members of the White Citizens Council. The mayor's attitude was made clear when he said, "Comes the first rainy day, and the Negroes will be back on the buses." The next day it did rain, but the Negroes did not ride the buses. At this point, over 42,000 Montgomery Negroes had joined the protest. After a period of uneasy quiet, elements in the white community turned to further police intimidation and to violence. 1956, January the 26th, I was arrested for traveling 30 miles per hour in a 25-mile zone. This arrest occurred just 2 hours before a mass meeting, so we had to hold 7 mass meetings to accommodate the people. January the 30th, my home was bombed. February the 1st, the home of E.D. Nixon, one of the protest leaders and the former state president of the NAACP, was bombed. This brought moral and financial support from all over the state. February the 22nd, 89 persons, including the 24 ministers, were arrested for participating in the nonviolent protests. Every attempt to end the protest by intimidation, by encouraging Negroes to inform by force and violence, further cemented the Negro community and brought sympathy for our cause from men of goodwill all over the world. The great appeal for the world appears to lie in the fact that we in Montgomery have adopted the method for nonviolence. In a world which most men attempt to defend their highest values by the accumulation of weapons of destruction, if it is morally refreshing to hear 5,000 Negroes in Montgomery shout, "Amen" and "Hallelujah" when they are exhorted to pray for those who oppose you, or pray, "Oh Lord, give us strength of body to keep walking for freedom," and conclude each mass meeting with, "Let us pray that God shall give us strength to remain nonviolent though we face death." The liberal dilemma. And death there may be. Many white men in the South see themselves as a fearful minority in an ocean of black men. They honestly believe, with one side of their minds, that Negroes are depraved and disease-ridden. They look upon any effort at equality as leading to mongrelization. They are convinced that racial equality is a communist idea and that those who ask for it are subversive. They believe that their caste system is the highest form of social organization. The enlightened white Southerner who for years has preached gradualism, now sees that even the slow approach finally has revolutionary implications. Placing straws on a camel's back, no matter how slowly, is dangerous. This realization has immobilized the liberals and most of the white church leaders. They have no answer for dealing with the absorbing violence, dealing with or absorbing violence. They end in begging for retreat, lest things get out of hand and lead to violence. Writing in Life, William Faulkner, Nobel Prize winning author from Mississippi, recently urged the NAACP to stop now for a moment. That is to say, he encouraged Negroes to accept injustice, exploitation, and indignity for a while longer. It is hardly a moral act to encourage others patiently to accept injustice while he himself does not endure. In urging delay, which in this dynamic period is tantamount to retreat, Faulkner suggests that those of us who press for change now may not know that violence could break out. He says we are dealing with a fact, the fact of emotional conditions of such fierce unanimity as to scorn the fact that it is a minority and which will go to any lengths and against any odds at this moment to justify and, if necessary, defend the condition and its right to it. We Southern Negroes believe that it is essential to defend the right of equality now. From this position, we will not and cannot retreat. Fortunately, we are increasingly aware that we must try to defend our position by methods that contradict the aim of brotherhood. We in Montgomery believe that the only way to press on is by adopting the philosophy and practice of nonviolent resistance. This method permits a struggle to go on with dignity and without the need to retreat. It is a method that can absorb the violence that is inevitable in social exchange, in social change, whenever deep-seated prejudices are challenged. If, in pressing for justice and equality in Montgomery, we discover that those who reject equality are prepared to use violence, we must not despair, retreat, or fear. Before they make this crucial decision, they must remember, whatever they do, we will not use violence in return. We hope we can act in the struggle in which a way that they will see the error of their approach will come to respect us. Then we can all live together in peace and equality. The basic conflict is not really over the buses. Yet we believe that if the method we use in dealing with the equality in the buses can eliminate injustice within ourselves, we shall at the same time be attacking the basis of injustice, man's hostility to man. This can only be done when we challenge the white community to re examine its assumptions as we are now prepared to re examine ours. We do not wish to triumph over the white community. What would only that would only result in transferring those now on the bottom to the top. But if we can live up to the nonviolence in thought and deed, there will emerge an interracial society based on freedom for all. This was published in Liberation 1, April 1956, pages 5 and 6. So, yeah, first of all, let me apologize for having to use the more explicit words. I don't use them lightly, but I abhor censoring something. I do not agree with that when you censor things. So I just feel it's necessary to speak it as it is written. And in dealing with these topics, it's going to come up occasionally. But yeah, Dr. King gives examples where he's been pressured on trying to fight for rights non-violently. That they receive so much pushback, even though they are non-violent in their protest. He talks about Rosa Parks sitting at the front of the bus, but he also makes it known that the black community was united slowly, bit by bit. The group and the protest grew. No matter what those who tried to hold down Dr. King and his compatriots tried to do. And he says, as much as they wish to inflict harm upon us, even if we face death, we must not use violence in return. And they were willing to face death, arrest, whatever. And he gives a series of events from December of 1955 through February, almost into March of 56. And you can see how bad it gets because he talks about his home and another uh, civil rights leader's home being bombed. So, yeah. But it's a real interesting piece. But that'll be it for now. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tries to tell you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, later.